The information discussed in today's PILCast episode are merely opinions and do not constitute formal policy or legal guidance of any kind. Hello, and welcome to another PILCast, the video blog where we talk about important innovation concepts in 10 minutes or less. We guarantee it. My name is David Jablonski, and I am a coach with the Procurement Innovation Lab. Today, I'm joined by our special guest, Nicholas Martinelli, Contracting Officer from the Customs and Border Protection. Thanks for joining us today, Nick.
Great to be here, David.
Excellent. So this is episode 3 of our PILCast series. This is brief explanation on brief explanations. And Nick is going to help us today understand what brief explanations are and share some best practices for all of your procurement teams out there. Now, in keeping with the theme of Halloween, we're going to see if there's any villains in this story or if there's a happy ending. And also you can see with us, we have some nice little pumpkins on our desk behind us. So hopefully this will be a lot of fun and all of you will enjoy it today. All right, Nick, so welcome and really thank you for being here today and being a part of this PILCast.
Great to be here, David. It's an important topic that we're going to cover.
Excellent. So Nick, can you explain what brief explanations are and the process in the federal acquisition regulations for brief explanations?
Sure. So brief explanations, they're not defined in the FAR. They're used in FAR Part 8 and also in FAR Part 13. What the FAR says is after award and sending out unsuccessful notices to participants in the acquisition process, if a vendor requests information on award that was based on factors other than price alone, a brief explanation of the basis for the award decision shall be provided. There's no prescribed procedures for brief explanations in Part 8, but there is some information in Part 13 of information that should be included in the brief explanation. But most of the information in the FAR is most of that stuff is provided in unsuccessful offer notices.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very helpful. Thanks for teeing that up there. So now, are there any timelines associated with the brief explanation process?
So in Part 8 and in Part 13, vendors are provided 10 days from the time they receive notification of award to submit a protest. Typically, vendors will request additional information within a day or two of being told about the award decision. The government and what we've done is we want to be prompt in providing brief explanations to vendors, because if they don't get the feedback they receive from the government, they're more than likely going to protest if they're not told in a timely fashion.
Gotcha. So we got to be timely in that information we're giving back to vendors, or we risk that chance of a protest. Okay. Now, it's interesting you mentioned that vendors may protest if they do not receive that information timely. But what is the purpose of providing the explanations to vendors?
So we want to follow, obviously, the procedures that are listed in the FAR with providing those brief explanations. Vendors are using their time and money to respond to DHS's solicitations with hopes of being selected for award. And I think it's important for us to remember that we want to be transparent with our business partners, including small businesses, when providing brief explanations so they can improve their chance of success on future procurements and DHS gets better technical responses for our mission requirements.
I think that's great feedback for our government teams. We need to remember vendors are partners in the process, and we need to treat them as such as well. I know, so here at the PIL, we're big on sharing information, being transparent, and just giving vendors what we have and how we value them. But we're also big on storytelling too, and that's another big reason you're here today, is so you can share a story of one of your procurements and how you prepared and conducted your brief explanations on that procurement. So maybe you can share some information with us while you're here.
Yeah, sure. So CBP had an 8.4 requirement. When our team started working on it, it had been protested a couple of times before. And so when we had gotten ready to make award, one of the things that we did was we prepared our unsuccessful notice and our brief explanations and had a date in mind for when we wanted to do virtual face-to-face explanations prior to award. It was in keeping with a theme that I like to talk about, which is playing offense, and we set the tone that we had nothing to hide. Both the contracting folks as well as the technical evaluation team. We wanted it was a fair and transparent process, and we wanted to ensure and let the unsuccessful folks know that that was the case, and they really had nothing to gain by protesting. So when we shared information in our brief explanation, it came right from the consensus report, the technical consensus report, and we answered relevant questions that they had about their proposal to the government. It went off very, very well, and I really believe that we mitigated protest risk by being prepared and playing offense.
Interesting. So I like how you said playing offense there. It's we got the World Series upon us, and there's a lot of offense in that game last night with the Braves. And we're in football season 2, so we hear about offense and defense quite often. And so you guys really took it out there and went and took that initiative to do this ahead of time, where I think a lot of teams are more reacting to the process in the back end. And one thing I heard as well, and maybe you could let us know, did you guys work closely with your legal team through this process too?
We did. They didn't participate in the face-to-face brief explanations. They did work closely with us on the information that we were going to be providing to the unsuccessful folks. And again, it just was, as you touched on, we were being proactive rather than reactive by having everything ready to go and having been involved with the technical team and the lawyers up front.
Okay, so maybe you could tell us about how that process worked a little bit when you actually did the brief explanation. So did you do them in just writing, or did you have like a virtual face-to-face with them at all? How did that process work for you guys?
So at each, we tailor our unsuccessful notices and debriefings, brief explanations to the requirements. In this case, we prepared the brief explanation up front. And we had written everything down. We provided that to the unsuccessful vendor about 30 to 60 minutes before the virtual face-to-face meeting there to mitigate them having prepared 50 to 100 questions in advance. So they received the document about 30 minutes before the virtual face-to-face meeting, and then we read through it. And then the unsuccessful vendor was allowed to ask relevant questions about the information that they heard.
Interesting. So now how did this turn out on the back end? How did things go this time around for this requirement?
It went fabulous. There were no more protests. So the award was made clean, and mission requirements are being met.
Awesome. And now, when you did the brief explanation, did you share everything with them, or just bits of that evaluation report with them?
No, we told them up front that we were sharing everything with them in order to mitigate any protest risk.
That's awesome. So, I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of our teams to understand, that we want to share as much information as possible, be transparent, and give it out to them so they have all that information, and then to see there's no reason to protest this requirement. All right. Any other takeaways at all from you, Nick?
Nope. Just tailor the explanations to the requirements, and tailor your process to the acquisition, and good luck with some great contracting.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nick, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you out there watching today as well. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to our channel. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the next PILCast. Take care. Thank you, everyone.